I feel when you hear people say like, I'd want to thrive, not just survive, they think of survive meaning like living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to figure out a relationship or something of that nature, when it really can just be, no, you can look successful as hell on paper, but do you actually feel alive? Do you feel free? Do you feel like you are deeply fulfilled? Because if those answers aren't yes, something needs to change, period.
You're listening to the Bold Women in Business podcast, the show for women who are building something that actually matters and who are ready to stop hiding behind the polished and perfect and start showing up as their bold, magnetic, human AF selves. I'm Rachel Honeyman, your guide to finding your true magic and putting it front and center in your brand. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. All right, I gotta admit something, kind of embarrassed, but this episode is all about nervous system regulation. I have this incredible guest, Daley. She's a doctor of physical therapy who took a totally different path after she went through multiple rounds of burnout, and she wound up becoming this incredible coach for helping people find alignment and nervous system regulation and all of those pieces that so many of us struggle with. And we had this incredible conversation. And then immediately I kind of like went and lost my shit at my husband about something that was not his fault at all. But I don't know, maybe this conversation just like brought some of that up to the surface for me. So with that said, I did apologize and am feeling a lot more regulated now. But the reason I share this is that this is ever present for so many of us, especially as entrepreneurs. We are so often tipping over the edge of burnout. And we're so often hitting this wall when it comes to really regulating our nervous systems and taking care of ourselves. And there's so much in this conversation that you're going to want to like get a notepad and take notes, because Megs shares so many tips in this episode. I asked her for like a quick tip at the end, but honestly, she shares tips throughout. So take notes, because she shares some really good nuggets. And I think that pretty much anyone listening to this can benefit, because we are all in this kind of crisis of our nervous system's just constantly under attack, honestly, between social media and what's happening in the news. And then as entrepreneurs, we are just running on fumes half the time. And between all of those things, we find ourselves kind of pulled in a million directions. And that can take such a toll on our mind and our body. And it just shows up in so many different ways. And I clearly need some of the tips she shared this episode. So I'm going to go do that physiological sigh that she shares towards the end of the episode. And I hope you do too. So enjoy. All right. I'm so excited for my guest today, Dr. Daley. You prefer to go by Megs, right?
Yes.
Meg? Okay, awesome. So Megs is here and has just such an interesting and varied story, and the things that she focuses on are so impactful for anyone, but certainly for my audience of female entrepreneurs. I just think that there's so much that you have to offer, and I'm really excited to have them learn from you and hear what you have to say. So why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the conversation today.
Hi. Okay. First and foremost, thank you so much, Rachel, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here today. Quick and dirty about me. I'm an Enneagram 7 manifester, ADHD, like Pisces. Like if you know anything about any of those, you know that I am like multi-passionate, chaos meets compassion meets like, I feel like it's a running joke with my friends that I am like the middle ground for just about everything. I refuse to be put in a box. On the professional side of things, DPT for over 10 years. I hit burnout multiple times within that. And then was my dad's caregiver at his end of life. He got sick terminally a month into retirement and made it 7 more months before he passed. And so I got a front row seat to watching someone who had lived for retirement and then never got it, and had to kind of zoom out and look at my life and was like, holy fuck, I hope we can cuss. Holy fuck, I'm doing the exact same thing. And it wasn't even like I was intentionally aware of that specifically. It was more of I'm like, why don't I know the answer to why I made the decisions that put me on the path that I am currently on? Like, and then started questioning, wait, who am I? What do I actually want? And that led me down this giant path that ended up kind of unintentionally spitting me out into what I do now, which is helping high achieving women get really, really clear on who they are and what they want when you strip away the shoulds. And a giant part of that is like the foundation of nervous system regulation and boundaries and all the internal work so that you can actually create the internal environment to match the external environment that you really want and are trying to call in. And you can hold space and actually courageously go for it.
Wow. There's so much there. I mean, first of all, I just want to say the experience of being a caregiver, I think, is just something that people they just don't understand what that means until you've done it. And I honestly haven't done it at this stage of my life, although I was just having a conversation with a friend about how I'm just getting the first glimmers of like what it means to have aging parents and how that impacts you. And it's a whole new life stage. And so I'm so sorry about your father. And I think it makes so much sense that was such a wake up call, because so many people go through that experience of, well, I see so many of my friends, right, who are like living their lives for retirement. They are like in jobs that they hate, and they're in the grind, and they're doing this whole thing we call life in a way that is just living for this eventual future that may not come to pass, which is really, I mean, it's mindset when you think about it. And so, I think it just makes so much sense, and it's such a needed thing. So I think the work you're doing is so impactful and beautiful and necessary.
Thank you. And it's one of those things where being a caregiver, particularly for a loved one, because it's a little bit of a different experience if your job is, so one of my clients actually is like, her job is as a caregiver, and it's incredibly hard regardless. When it's with a loved one, you are the outlet that they know will love you no matter what you do. So you end up being the emotional punching bag. And so it's a very, very different experience. And I put it under the category of things that you can think you understand but you won't until you actually go through it. Like having a child, like losing a parent, like there's a lot of different things that fall under that category. And while I would trade everything for one more day with him, I am deeply grateful for the wake up call. And I think what's interesting is once you go through something like that, anything where like death is kind of thrown in your face, you're more aware of just how many people are walking around kind of asleep. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean, they may be, and it's not, I don't even say surviving as in, I feel when you hear people say like, I'd want to thrive, not just survive, they think of survive meaning like living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to figure out a relationship or something of that nature, when it really can just be, no, you can look successful as hell on paper, but do you actually feel alive? Do you feel free? Do you feel like you are deeply fulfilled? Because if those answers aren't yes, something needs to change, period. And you can just look at people and see like, oh, like you're just striving, but do you even know what you're striving for? And does it feel like what you want it to feel like? Or are you just grasping and trying to control and force something at this point?
Yeah, I think that is probably going to resonate with just about everyone listening to this, because I think that all of us find ourselves in that state at some point. Like, I think it's an impossible thing to escape fully, but being aware of it is such a huge part of that process. Mm-hmm. I would love to hear a little bit more about your story with, you were working as a DPT, you were successful by every measure, right? You were like externally just exactly what you're talking about. Like what was underneath that for you? And then when you had this kind of wake up call, How did it lead you to doing the work that you're doing now?
Yeah. So I think it took like a solid 3 rounds of burnout to even recognize that that's what it was. And that's not uncommon. I've actually used that question in keynotes before to kind of gauge an audience. And no one, when I ask like who's had how many rounds of burnout, it's always multiple. And then when I ask how many rounds of burnout did it take before you actually recognize that that's what it was, the minimum is 3. No one raises their hand before 3. And I remember about my 3rd or 4th round of hitting this, I remember sitting back and being like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm doing the quote unquote right things. I got the doctoral degree. I've built a 6-figure clinic. I am very respected in my field. I have people reaching out and telling me they look up to me because I travel the country and teach for one of the leading continuing education companies that I got handpicked for, like all these things. And then that bled into a little bit before my dad got sick. I remember it was one of those situations where I had more than one person say something pretty similar to me in the span of a couple days. And all of it was, oh my gosh, you must be so proud of yourself. Like, you're doing such amazing things. Like, I want to have the life that you have. And I remember it feeling like such a gut punch because I was like, ooh, no, first, no, you don't. And it's because it doesn't, like, I almost felt like an imposter. Mm-hmm. It was this weird sense of imposter syndrome of like, I know that I look good on paper, but I don't feel like it. Like, I feel depressed, honestly, and very frustrated, and just was grasping at different certifications. I remember continuously thinking, okay, this will be the thing that I can implement into patient care that will make it all click finally. And it would feel great. I would be lit up after the course and so excited and so empowered again for about 3 days before it would start to hit again. And I honestly see the same cycle with clients or even potential clients that end up legitimately not signing because they're not willing yet to face the reality of needing to change. And that is, I also want to put voice to the fact that it is scary when the thing that you have built up and the thing that you have worked so hard for, there's actually a name for it. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm getting like a little off of the original question. I promise I will circle back. My squirrel brain works this way. And so it is terrifying to kind of face that and be like, because there's a certain amount of it almost feeling like I did the wrong thing, which isn't actually true, but our inner voice can say that. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I go through this experience with my dad, which was right, that front row seat again, a huge wake up call. And then you can pile on top of that, on the back end of it, I hit a wall with grief. And a little bit of a backstory. I essentially lived in chronic fight or flight for 3 decades. And I think a lot of high achieving women, at least initially, do live in chronic fight or flight without recognizing it because it's what allows you to be insanely productive. And it's not to say that you can't be productive without being in that realm. It's just what you were taught, right? If you have dealt with perfectionism and people pleasing and like the whole eldest daughter kind of mentality, even if you're not an eldest daughter, mm-hmm. I promise you have lived in chronic fight or flight for far too long at some point, whether or not you're still in or you're on the other side. It's almost like a conditioned response to create that nervous system. And then for me personally, I had infantile trauma that was like the foundation of my nervous system regulation that just made it chronically dysregulated without me knowing. And so when grief slammed me, I really battled my identity because I couldn't function. I could show up to work, but I had to cut down my hours pretty drastically. And so I ended up feeling like, if you think like those paper mache classes you did in elementary school, like imagine being like a paper mache with all these layers of conditioning and patterning and how you could show up and how you could stay productive, and literally just having it cracked open and there's just this raw center left. Like that is how I felt. Mm-hmm. And so when I started doing therapy for the grief, it then, because everything's intertwined, it then started highlighting all these old patterns and ways that I had been conditioned. And it ended up being this cascade of really zooming out and questioning every single aspect of me. And like, okay, is this really my belief or was I taught this belief? do I really want this for my life? Or was I told that this is what would bring me fulfillment, happiness, et cetera? And so I went down this path. And really, one of my core values now is to always stay curious. Because I think if we're always asking why, like, you know how little kids will just be like, but why? But why? But why? And you're like, oh my gosh, please stop. To a certain extent, though, that's actually really important to keep up with as an adult and start to really question. Yeah, it's annoying, but they really are. And so I started down this path. Now, the one thing that I will say is each individual is too close to your own source. So to truly be able to answer the question of, is this me? Is this my voice? Or is this someone else? It takes either an insane amount of time and resources to pour into therapy and coaches and et cetera, or someone's multiple people who can be powerful mirrors so that you can't read your own label from inside your own bottle. So you need mirrors so that you can actually read your label and figure out like what's mine versus what was put on me without me really kind of knowing. And so it was a multi-year process for me to unravel this and really question every single layer of what I thought was my identity. And as I was going through this, I'm still working. And at this point, I had opened up my own cash clinic. I opened up January 2020, so that was fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Ended up building it to, I think in 18 months, I hit 6 figures, which in the PT world, that's a huge deal. And I also recognize that there's a ceiling that I put on myself with how clinics work. But in the midst of this, I was just chatting with patients. Like while we were doing dry needling or while we were doing exercises, I was just chatting with them. And I've always been an open book. So I was talking about this journey and the things that I was learning. And I suddenly started having patients tell me like, hey, I want to refer someone to you. And I can get them in your office because they have migraines or they have jaw pain or they tweaked their knee or there's some like physical reason to bring them in. It's like, but I want you to talk to them like you have with me because I think they could use some help with figuring out what their next steps are. Like they're feeling a little lost in life or they're feeling a little dysregulated or they allow things to bug them too much. Like, can you just chat with them? Because you've really helped me in X, Y, or Z. And I remember kind of sitting back and being like, that's a little weird. Like, that's not what you're in here for, but I actually think I enjoy that part more.
Yeah.
And the same week, so I had tweaked my shoulder snowboarding. I'd fallen on it and tweaked it. And so I was seeing a friend of mine because I can't treat my own shoulder. And I remember watching him be so lit up and so in his purpose very clearly. And it being a powerful mirror of like, oh, fuck, that used to be me in this realm. And it is not anymore.
Yeah.
And so like those two together was like, oh, okay. Like I actually really enjoy this other side that kind of falls under psychology, coaching, like whatever. It's a blend of like a ton of different things. And so then I took a couple friends through it who were going through some things and realized like, oh, I actually have a methodology and it actually works. So yeah, that was a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, but that was, I think, a very complete answer. Like it really gives the sense because it's not a straight path, right? Like it's not like, okay, like now I'm going to decide to take this whole different journey, right? You have to go.
And it's not like there was this one big moment as powerful as like losing a parent is. Like, it's not just like it was like God like dropped in this like, boop, this is what you're going to do. And here's how you're going to do it. No, like I had to go through the insane struggle. Like the struggle is the setup, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. One thing that stuck with me from what you were talking about is this sense that you went through multiple rounds of burnout, and this is very common. Can you define burnout? Like, how can someone listening to this recognize if they're in burnout?
Yeah, so appreciate this. This is going to be a little bit nuanced and it can present a little bit differently for everyone, but there are some common themes throughout it. And I also want to preface this with, it is totally okay and actually necessary as an entrepreneur, especially to be able to ride the edges of burnout. The issue is you don't want to tip into it. So because I think that there is a little bit of a give and take of there are going to be times where you need to push hard, but what's the intention of it and how does it feel? So I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but I will talk to clients about heart-led hustle. And as long as it feels aligned and you are leading with your heart first and foremost, and you are staying curious and true to your values and your intention, as long as that is true, you can hustle without tipping into burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another piece of that is you need to have foundational regulation skills to be able to hold that without kicking into fight or flight as a mechanism to get productive and to go into hustle, right? Because then, yes, you are going to go into burnout. Like chronic fight or flight is equal to burnout, period. Like you can't really separate the two. Okay, so burnout, one of the common things is you're going to wake up feeling wired but tired, or even like in the afternoon. Wired but tired is a very common chronic fight or flight and burnout feeling of no matter how much you rest, it doesn't quite feel like enough. And you have this kind of on edge feeling constantly. That's probably the number one common one. Another sign that can show up as is getting sick as soon as you take a day off or take a vacation, either during it or immediately after. That is your system dumping. It is trying to warn you that it is already in burnout and you need to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a fairly common one that I see. Whether it's sick, it can also be migraines. If you don't necessarily get sick, but you get migraines or have something like gut health issues pop up as soon as you take a break. Anything of that nature is a major sign of burnout.
Yeah. Almost like if you're pushing and pushing and pushing and like the momentum, like if you stop that momentum for a second, like your body's like, oh shit, like take a break.
Yes. Yeah. And it's because like that is essentially a sign that momentum that you were doing was in fight or flight. It wasn't in aligned momentum at that point, because otherwise your system wouldn't dump. See, because it wouldn't be compiling cortisol like it was, which is what happens. Like that's what I mean by dump. It's like it's dumping cortisol and it's creating this cascade of things. And I promise you don't want to do what I did and be in that for 30 years, because I am still years later dealing with hormone issues and gut health issues because my system was dumping so much cortisol after so long of holding on to it. So even though I feel like I am on the other side and I have found alignment, I still have health issues that are prolonged because I was in such a not ideal place for so long without recognizing it.
Yeah.
The other things, it can also physically. So your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual health is so intertwined that they can't be separated. So there are plenty of times that I can look back in hindsight as a PT and now recognize, I actually have one like really very clear story of it, that someone was coming in with a physical thing that didn't match up with the biomechanical findings that I was getting. And the part of it was a physical manifestation of an emotional or mental problem. Whether that be not having a conversation with your brother about that thing that he did that bugged you like 2 years ago, or whether it be pushing yourself too hard at work and you keep ignoring it. And so you end up with like chronic back pain or chronic headaches, or you injure your shoulder for something that really shouldn't have injured it because you have the strength to hold whatever movement you were doing. Like that kind of stuff will also be a factor with burnout. That can also happen anytime you're going through like if you're going through grief, right? Your capacity is already kind of in like decreased. And capacity and capability are two different things, but your system is already working so hard to help you go through the hard time, whether that be a breakup, whether that be romantic or friend, switching, like having to look for a new place to live, like anything that's a hard time. For anyone listening, you're not necessarily going to be like able to see this visual, but if you imagine like a wide window and that's your capacity, it's already like, instead of you being at the bottom, you're already kind of at the halfway point, because your system that's what your system needs to actually keep you in a more, or try to keep you in a more regulated state. And so then that's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, I tweaked my back lifting a cookie tray out of the oven. It's not that you bent over and picked it up. It's that your system was already so fried that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that can relate to so much. It can relate to work so directly as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if there was more, like there's more things, but then it starts to get into the nuance as to how burnout shows up for every little person. But often there is something with a physical manifestation or an illness. There is often like that rest. Like I feel guilty for rest. Even if I do rest, there's never enough of it. Like that kind of stuff is very classic.
Yeah. Have you read, probably you have, but have you read The Way Out by Alan Gordon? Or are you familiar?
I actually haven't even heard of it. That's going on the list.
You should definitely read it. It's very, I mean, it's basically about chronic pain. I suffer from chronic pain, and it is very tied to what you're talking about here, the physical manifestations of all sorts of things, right? It can be all sorts of emotional challenges that show up in our bodies in all sorts of ways that we don't, I think that our society is not really equipped to know what to do with that. And so that's kind of where like you need to take a different perspective and a different approach, because the standard method. Yeah,
the messages that you will see out there, especially as like how to run a business. I'm like, we're not all running around being generators and perfectly healthy and like that. No.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that it's just so powerful, and I think everyone knows this on an intuitive level, right? Like there's like the idea of having, butterflies in your stomach or having a nervous stomach, or right. We have these like ideas that we all know that this exists. It's just that when you have something that feels like, well, how could this not be physical? Like it feels so physical. And it doesn't mean that there isn't there might be a physical thing as well, a physical component as well, but it's just the mind body connection is so powerful, and then all those other parts of our lives, like you're talking about, like work and family and like everything else contributes to this state of just your nervous system being in overload, and it just is finding some way to signal to you.
Yes. And I would be, there's not a whole lot of research on what I'm about to say. I think that there are some people who are trying to start to research it, but there is an increase in like chronic illnesses, autoimmune diseases, ADHD. And I do think a huge part of that is more recognition and more awareness on what it is and how to diagnose it and all this thing. But I think another huge component is the fact that a lot of us were conditioned to unintentionally be dysregulated, to not address any kind of trauma, whether that be big T or little t. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a lot of increase in it because there's so many things that are emotional or mental underlying things and dysregulation that are going unaddressed. And therefore your system is it's manifesting as this autoimmune disease or as this chronic injury or as this like, again, I'm prefacing this as a medical provider that like, oh, there isn't a ton of research to back this up, but I see this and it would make sense. And I know for me personally, I have ADHD. I got diagnosed at 7. I have been re-diagnosed because when I was growing up, they didn't think adult ADHD existed. So I had to fight to get medication at that time. What I also can say, now I would still need to be medicated if I were to go back and do something at like a board exam where you need to be focused for multiple hours at a time in a very intense way. And when I started my personal development journey, which included a lot of like, I better get regulated or like, we're going to have some issues. As a side note, like I had stress-induced seizures. That's how dysregulated I was.
Wow.
And I remember it took a while for me to notice this, but there was a direct correlation with how regulated I became and how much I more understood myself and started to work through past traumas and being able to completely come off of medication and mitigate most of my symptoms. They're not gone, right? Like the underlying, like ADHD at its true nature is like an actual neurological receptor dysfunction. Like that's not gonna change, but I can change how bad the symptoms are because society as a whole and how we're conditioned now, even like look at media, like it's designed to grab your attention in under 7 seconds and constantly switch it. Like, yeah, you're going to exacerbate ADHD symptoms, and anyone who even doesn't have it is going to have attention issues. Like, that's just how the world is designed.
That these issues are becoming more common. It's just,
exactly.
It's the perfect environment for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like 1000%. And like you can mitigate a lot of your struggles with how bad your symptoms are in certain realms. This isn't going to be true for everyone, but the more regulated you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's definitely true for ADHD. I've seen it with my clients and patients who have like a combination of like POTS-like diagnoses. I am trying so hard. You know, when you are in this work and you have family members that you're like, if you would just do this thing for the love of all that is holy. And my brother recently got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I'm like, we grew up in the same household, bud. Like, I know what you went through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not a shocker that you suddenly had gut health issues starting at age 30. But he's very, very, maybe one day he will believe anything outside of very strict Western medicine. But I'm going to keep my hopes up, but I'm not going to push it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to come back to something you touched on earlier, which is this idea of entrepreneurs kind of needing to ride the edges of burnout, because I think that this is a really tricky, it's a tricky wave to ride, right? Because as entrepreneurs, like we do have to push ourselves at certain points, and like if you don't push at certain points, like you're not paying your bills, right? It's not like you have.
Can I just say I have a bone to pick with a lot of the like very successful, like 100,000+ follower entrepreneurs now that are putting out a ton of messaging as like, oh, you can build soft and you don't have to hustle and you can work 2 to 4 hours a day and do this thing. I'm like, bitch, you already had the audience to be able to push something new and build something new. Like you hustled your ass off initially.
I have to so build much this. To say about this. Yes.
Like this sounds great. And you're getting a lot of people buying your things because it sounds idealistic, because it is idealistic and it's not how you did it. Anyways, that's why I was like, I have to say at least that piece. So yes, you do have to ride the edges of burnout, right? Anyone who has tried to build something, or particularly if it's something new, like I'm a manifestor in human design. So I am literally wired to build something that hasn't been done before, which means I don't have, first off, I think blueprints are bullshit anyways, but there's not even an ounce of proof that that someone else has done this thing and it can be successful and for me to like borrow belief in. So regardless, I got a little off topic there, but regardless, you are going to have to push to build something. And in that push, I mentioned this earlier, the biggest thing is constantly stay curious with yourself of, am I in line with my why? Mm-hmm. Am I in line? Like, how I am building this feel good? Not that it feels comfortable, but that it feels like me.
Mm-hmm.
And in figuring out the how and the why, this is something I take all clients through when we do. So I work my sessions are very different. It's not like you come into a 12-month coaching container and we work something out. No, we do a deep dive. Like, give me 3 hours of your time and we're going to get really fucking clear and get you give you all the tools so that you can get deeply regulated and literally all the internal and external things in 3 hours. Now there's continued coaching because goodness knows, like it's not like it can't just be a one and done session,
right?
For the most part, unless you just have like one little thing that you needed to tweak. But when I start, I have people brain dump in the intake. And then the work that I send people at that point is incredibly individualized, but there are 2 pieces that I almost always give in some way, shape, or form. And one of them is the perfect day exercise. Because if you aren't really clear on what you want your days to look like and how your energy naturally flows in those days, and even when I say day, when I give the instructions, us as females, we're a 28-day cycle. It's not like every day is going to look the same. And so being able to recognize that and kind of know, hey, here's the ideal day with some flow for maybe these are the days where I lean into creativity and at this part of my cycle. And maybe at this point I lean into admin, and these are the days where I just need autopilot stuff. And being able to get really clear and go through with someone on like, okay, what does my energy naturally want to do? So you have a true north. You have something that's like, okay, this is what I want my days to look like. So that then you can reverse engineer on, okay, how do I want to structure this? Because if you don't know that, you are going to set yourself up for burnout. It is really easy to look at how other people are doing things. Here's a good example. So when I was building my business, again, manifestor, no generator energy, which essentially means, for anyone who doesn't know human design, I am going to burn out if I put myself in a position to be the constant facilitator without any breaks.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started, I looked at like, okay, like what's the proof of what works? And I was in this, okay, I need something low ticket that can be rinse and repeat every month and have this group. And so I tried to run monthly workshops and was like, okay, maybe if I can change the topic every month, it'll be fine. But the launch side, because I wasn't in a place where I could delegate and hire someone to do all of the like operations stuff to make sure like people were in the room. Mm-hmm. I burnt out by the end of the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to reverse, like I had to pull myself back and basically be my own client, right? As entrepreneurs, highly recommend being your own client and going through your own stuff. We all forget to do this
all the time. I like go through this every few months. I'm like, okay, gotta be my own client now.
Practice
like,
what you preach, right? Because we often end up teaching and helping other people in the thing that we struggle with. So it's just, yeah. So I took myself through the perfect day and was like, oh, okay, I'm trying to pour too much energy into the wrong places. So having your true north, both in the perfect day. And then the other thing that I always take people through is essentially questions that allow you to strip away the shoulds. Because I think what we do far too often, even if we have some clarity on like, okay, this is this like thing that's on my heart that I can't fully let go of. So it's the thing that I'm meant to build. And then we look around and we're like, okay, here's how I can like tweak it to make it something that is actually like other people would want or would be more acceptable as the jump for me to make, right? Like, especially in the clinical world, the number of people that I see be frustrated with corporate clinic, know that that's not for them, and then open up a cash pay because they believe that that's going to fix everything because it's what they see out there. And honestly, we put on blinders, right? We see what's possible or what's normal in our career path or with our degrees, and then we don't look outside of that. Mm-hmm. And we don't even realize that we're not looking outside of it. So having an idea of what you want and then not allowing the shoulds or the conditioning to shift it. Because even if it's a 1% shift, if that happens on repeat, that compiles and gets you completely off your path. And then you're ending up in that place where you're looking in the mirror and being like, wait, how did I get here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the two biggest things. Like you need to have a deep awareness of those and constant kind of like checks and balances against falling susceptible to the shoulds because we're human. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then that thing that I said about heart-led hustle, like just constantly being curious on, am I still in alignment or is something off?
Yeah, it's so interesting because obviously I do very different work than you do. And what I'm focused on is content and branding and websites and, really the marketing side of things. But it's the same because it all starts with that foundation of like really understanding who you are and what's important to you and how you want to show up in the world and like all of that. And it's really about stripping away all the things that other people are doing, right? We don't just have to follow what everyone else is doing. And what you said at the beginning of your answer to this question of like, the people who have 100,000+ followers and they're giving this advice and they're talking about how it can be so easy. I was recently at a conference where there was a panel discussion about social media and all of that. And it's like, what I realize is at these conferences, like you don't actually learn anything in the sessions, right? It's really for networking. So that was a learning opportunity. But anyway, the panel was like these influencers who have, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're giving advice to regular small business owners in the audience. It was just a room full of female entrepreneurs running small businesses, and they're giving this advice that is based on something that they built in 2010, when it was really easy to build a big following, and now they're just riding that wave. Yeah. And it is much harder now to do those same things and have it work. And so
it looks very different. And even the one different. And I don't fault them either, because when you are so far removed from where you used to be, it is really hard to put yourself completely, truly back in that mentality and be able to really guide someone who's in that phase, versus I honestly think it's a hell of a lot easier to guide someone who's like 2, 3, maybe 4 steps behind, but not 20.
Yeah.
That's a little too big of a gap to really stay true to what it's actually like and to put yourself in the shoes enough to give accurate advice. I will also say that for anyone who likes those kinds of events, definitely look at reviews and talk to other people who have gone, because there are ones that aren't just networking and that you actually do walk away with tangible things, but they are far and few between. And so many of them are really just networking, and it's like elevator pitch after elevator pitch. Trying to connect with people. Yeah. The other thing that came up while you were chatting that I didn't say yet. And this is why 2 of the foundational pillars of things that I do with clients is 1, regulation. If you don't have a solid foundation of nervous system regulation, if you haven't widened your window of tolerance to be able to kind of ride the flow of anything that gets thrown at your day without letting your reactivity to take over or the emotion to drive the bus, essentially, then it's a non-starter. You're going to end up falling back into the same patterns, and you're going to hit burnout more readily, because that's your system is just going to fall into that as a protective survival mechanism. The other part is boundaries. A lack of boundaries is a breeding ground for resentment. And the more you allow resentment to build, the more energy leaks you have, and you will also hit burnout in that phase. And when I say boundaries, I don't just mean external with other people. I also mean internal with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's so, that's a really important distinction, because people don't recognize that boundaries are very much start within, right? Even those external boundaries, they have to start within, because you'll never...
Like, when's the last time you actually left your me time block on your calendar and didn't move it because something came up?
I feel a little attacked.
It is probably one of the more challenging things that I give, but every single client gets that one. There's 2 boundaries, internal boundaries, that they always get. And one is your me time. You're going to set it. We'll even do it on the call if you need to sit with me while you do it. And I don't care if it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, meet yourself where you're at, but do not move it. Because you have to, especially if you already have other energy leaks that we've pointed out, you have to pour into yourself first. You have to. And then the other one that always gets people is no more than 3 needle moving tasks on your to-do list. If shit hit the fan today and you got nothing done, what are the 1 to 3 things that would at least make you feel like you had done something today and moved the needle in an area? Everything else can go on a nice to-do list, but when you make your list 20 things long, you are already adding to your nervous system. Your nervous system sees that to-do list, because we have just been trained. If it says to-do list at the top, those are promises, internal promises that you have now made to yourself that you will get those done today. And it does not feel good, and it negatively affects not only your regulation, but your confidence and your self-value, your internal stories, when you don't get that list done. Mm-hmm. So no more than 3 things. Everything can go on a nice to-do list where it's very intentional, that the list is hey, when I have extra time that I wasn't anticipating, these are the things that I can go to. And it is helpful to have that written down, especially if you're also ADHD, because otherwise good luck coming up with them on the fly. Yeah. Your brain won't. But then you have those needle moving things that you can be okay, I'm going to knock these out. Ideally, put them first thing in the morning so that those are done. So that if or when shit hits the fan, you at least have had a few things. And this also does not mean putting 3 things on your list and then when one of them doesn't feel good, adding other things and then just to have something to cross off. That does the same thing that I was talking about before.
I feel attacked again. Come on.
Sorry. Hey, I can say all of this because I was 1,000% the person doing that. The number of times that I have written out a to-do list and then added things to it because I productively procrastinated by cleaning my kitchen. And so then I would write clean the kitchen and cross it off. So I would feel better about myself.
Nothing feels better than crossing something off the to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah. But subconsciously, your subconscious knows that those other things are actually the important thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can try tricking yourself, but you can't trick your subconscious.
No, it always knows. No, that's so poignantly said. What's one thing, and I guess you've given a lot of tips in this episode already, but I guess like what's one takeaway? Like if someone is listening to this and they're like me, like, oh yeah, that's me, right? Like what's one thing that someone listening to this can do like today, right now, like, that will make some impact?
Yeah. Okay. So I have 2 that are coming to mind. And one is a regulation tool that's super easy to do and super accessible. And that is the physiological sigh. So anytime that you feel, whether it's overwhelm, whether it's you're sitting in a meeting and wanting to cry, but you're not in a space that you can, or you're dealing with your toddler's 50,000th question of the day and you're at your wit's end, or you're dealing with a hard client, or you're just having one of those days where you want to rest, but you have to show up. Do this. It takes all of 2 seconds. It's a deep nasal inhale and then a quick inhale at the top. So and then you can probably even hear that like quick forceful inhale at the very top. And then almost like you're blowing out through a straw, slowly exhale through your mouth until all the air is out of your lungs. What this does is when we are in a state of overwhelm, there's actually a direct correlation between dysregulation and carbon dioxide tolerance. So when you're in a state of overwhelm, your alveoli in your lungs have essentially collapsed so that they're not taking in oxygen, which in turn makes us shallow breathe more, which in turn spikes our anxiety even more. So it's actually a snowball effect. We can interrupt that by doing a physiological sigh because that quick inhale at the top forces like the alveoli to balloon and allow in a lot of oxygen. And then so it can regulate that cycle that it has started. And it's incredibly powerful. And if you can imagine, like it's just going to sound like you're sniffing. No one's going to notice. Like it's the easiest of the regulation tools because all of my other favorites, like you look like a crazy person just shaking, doing a full body shake, quite frankly. So this is the most like publicly like easy, especially if you're a people pleaser or yeah. The other thing is the easiest and quickest mindset shift ever. Anytime you catch yourself saying but, switch it to and. A good example of this is I want to travel, but I don't have any money. I want to travel and I don't have any money. What that does is it opens up your brain to the possibility of both being true at the same time. And so it allows you to start to see the opportunities of like, okay, how can they be both true at the same time? Maybe I can do a getaway where I take camping gear that I already have and go somewhere new. Or, right, maybe it's that it's not that you don't have any money, but you don't have the budget that you would like to have, which side note, also just be honest about where your priorities are with your money. Don't say like, oh, I don't have money for that. And then go get Botox.
Yeah.
Like I'm guilty of this too. And it's just being brutally honest with yourself of where your priorities are because your money shows where your priorities are. But that but to and allows, we could get nerdy with the science and how it activates your reticular activating system and how it actually allows, like on a biological level, allows your brain to actually see the possibilities. When you use the word but, it shuts that off. And so you're not even aware of how it could possibly be true.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually use that one a lot. In general, like that's been a very powerful shift for me personally is sometimes the butt still winds up finding
it'll
its way in
still
there,
sneak in there sometimes.
Yeah.
Or there are times where it actually is the appropriate thing because it's not two truths that are conflicting.
Exactly. Yeah.
My friends have actually started to call me out. Like, it's gotten to the point where I apparently use "and" enough that I just did a catch up with one of my college buddies on FaceTime, and he goes, "Do you know that you do this?" I was like, "Ooh, that's funny." I didn't realize I was doing it to the level that a random, like someone who hasn't spoken to me in 6 months would notice. But yes, it is actually really intentional.
Funny. Yeah. That's a big shift. I really love that one. Okay, well, we're like almost at time, so I want to be respectful of your time. This has been such a great conversation. I'm sure anyone listening is taking away tons of tips, and it has a lot going on in their head. How can people reach out to you? What's the best way for someone to work with you if they're interested?
Yeah, so I am maybe more active than I should admit on social media. But I am always in my Instagram DMs. It's always me. I'm almost at 10K, but it will forever be me. Like, that is a boundary that I hold. I don't care what happens down the road. It will always be me in the DMs. So on Instagram, it's at Dr. Megan Daley, DrMegan TikTok, it's the same. I just had to put the period after doctor to make it work. And then on my website, moveonthedaily.com, all the links are in my bio on Instagram. So if you're in social and you're like, wait, what was the link? Just go there. Just go to the link tree. You'll see all the things. And then I think I actually sent you the link so if anyone who is like, okay, how do I zoom out? Like, what are the questions that you're asking to get people to take away the shoulds? I actually turned that into a freebie, and it's called the Clarity Code. So yeah, I will make sure Rachel has the link for that to put it in the show notes. So you can just grab that. I actually have never done the artist way, but a friend who went through it messaged me, and it's like the artist way, but instead of 12 weeks, it's 12 minutes. So yeah, it just allows kind of to zoom out and really see like what you actually want in life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then on my link tree, those 3-hour, the Unstuck and Unleashed sessions are the 180 that you're looking for in life. Fill your gaps in 180 minutes. And that's like my launch pad, because I think that's such a beautiful place to start to get really clear. The only person that I would say that is not for is someone who is actively in burnout to the point where it feels overwhelming to even think of the possibilities. Mm-hmm. And that's where I offer coaching packages where it's like touch points, Telegram, so that you have me in your back pocket to actively walk through whatever's coming up for you in real time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. We will have all the links in the notes. So yeah, you can find everything there. And I really appreciate
please hit me up on Instagram, DM me, just say hi. I love connecting. Like that's where I get lost in the weeds, and I spend too much time on Instagram. Is I will literally just voice note back and forth with everyone.
I do the same. So. Well, thank you so much. This was such a great conversation, and we'll definitely be connecting again soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
All right, beautiful human. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, with music by Shmukalele and production by Podium Studios. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, hit subscribe, and don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps us grow and means the world. See you next time.